Young Blue, dropping Moon Boy. Uh, I think he really popped off with that song with Drake. Was it last year?
Last year, last fall, Yours
Yeah.
Mine Still remix featuring Drake. A classic example of the Drake cosign. Somebody hot, somebody new, somebody nascent, having Drake hop on that song, giving them a whole new platform, giving Drake a new hit in the process. We've seen this time and time again. Black Boy JB, I Love McConan. The list goes on. This is the latest one, but I do think it's a really effective song. I think in particular, it's a really good R&B Drake feature.
And Yours Mine Still is on this album. Um, and there's a lot of cosigns on this album if you're
Yeah.
going to look at the features. I mean, so you start off the first song with John Legend, the next song with her. Um, Kalani is on this.
Hmm.
Jeezy, Gunna. I mean, go all the way down. A Boogie with a Hoodie at the end. I mean, and even the Spotify like background of listening. One of the tracks actually just has all the featured artists listed on there, almost like a movie poster in a sense. And I think that's part of the appeal of this album is there's a lot of big names on this with someone
Hmm.
that isn't as well known. Um, but did you feel like Young Blue did enough on this album to stand out on his own right?
Yeah. I think that's the question. Yeah, I think I like him fine enough, but I probably don't like the album super high just because over the course of the 15 tracks, maybe the volume of features starts to like weigh on the album a little bit in terms of getting in the way of Young Blue, I guess. Like he's proven that he can work well with others. I also didn't, I guess it's nice to hear him prove that because the Drake cosign, always ends up becoming about Drake first. So
Mhm.
hearing him try and is that really establish himself in the industry on his own is important. And he had a lot of other tapes out before this, but really no one was super up on him until the Drake remix. And I also like that there's like a new voice in this kind of like radio driven R&B,
Mhm.
like it does definitely feel like this is especially a male one particularly. We talk about the female R&B artists all the time. And on the male side, I think it's people that are doing something different than Young Blue right now, like Giveon and Daniel Caesar, right? Like these are guys that are making softer, lighter stuff. But Young Blue definitely seems to be trying to thread the needle a little bit more. Like there's a lot
Mhm.
more like overt hip hop influence on this. And I definitely think it's interesting. But Moon Boy itself, I think a lot of songs still kind of blend together for me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience, and going back and having to listen to a couple of the songs a second time through just to kind of distinguish them and be able to run myself which one was which. And I don't know if it was maybe my experience of listening to this, but I felt like some of the production on this felt a bit clunky. Like it
Mm.
almost felt like you could kind of tell a lot of these people were not obviously in studio with him and like were kind of like sewn into the tracks a bit, and i I think that made it kind of hard to totally uh kind of just mesh with the album for me. And it's funny because I think probably one of the best songs on here is Way More Close with Big Sean. It's at least one of the most popular ones from this album at this point. However, I thought the Stuck in a Box, and then the play on words that kind of Big Sean has with that, is not necessarily something I really felt was that good.
Yeah,
So
it
it was
sounds
like,
like Big Sean. He's
yeah,
prone to a clunker once in a while.
once in a while. I feel like it's a lot of the time now,
Yeah, I
but
guess
uh,
you take the good and the bad.
yeah. So I think overall, I just felt a bit kind of like underwhelmed and at times a little bit like bored just because of the sameness of this. I guess
Mm,
if I had to pick some tracks that stood out, "Die Under the Moon" with John Legend stood out. I think mostly because I heard John Legend. I was like, it's kind of crazy that this young R&B singer is doing a track with John Legend. That's a really big cosign. Then her back to back off the
yeah.
top. It's like it's pretty remarkable. Kalani is always nice to hear, and I feel like I just want to hear more from her specifically. But I don't know if any of these songs really captured me all that much. What about for you?
Yeah, so listening through, I was like, when he was doing more hip hop stuff, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of like what Gunna does, what Future does. And then Gunna pops up on this. I'm like, ah, yes,
Yeah.
okay. And then I think in terms of a solo track, I think Last Summer was the one that stood out to me the most from Young Blue, specifically because I was like, oh, this sounds like a really good Future song. And yeah,
Mm,
maybe that's not the best compliment for someone trying to make his own identity still, but I did think it was well made.
yeah. I think overall this is listenable. Just I think when you're getting this many artists of this caliber on your record, you want to have a bit more pop than this does. But if you enjoy R&B, I think if you enjoyed the Her album, you would definitely find this to be very much in the same vein.